Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Cranky Pundit Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Morgan, the Cranky Pundit, and welcome to our new segment of the show where we take a look at the most underrated footballers of all time. And we start with Manchester United and Ireland legend, Denis Irwin. Denis Irwin was born in Cork City in 1965. He was an all-rounder, excelling not only in soccer, but at hurling and Gaelic football as well. He would go on to play at school level in Croke Park, which is Ireland's biggest stadium holding over 80,000 people, and he would even mark future teammate Niall Quinn in a couple of GAA matches. Denis Irwin is possibly the most underrated person in any sport of all time. In an era where we praise fullbacks for their attacking threat and completely neglect their defending attributes, Denis Irwin was a man who could do both aspects of the game to the letter of the law. A quiet, shy man who rarely did interviews, except for one dodgy one I found on YouTube where he rates the Chinese restaurants in Manchester. There is very little other content circling on social media with the Irish fullback. Not only is he underrated at club level, but even more so internationally. Irwin did not make the Italian 90 Irish World Cup squad despite being 25 years old at the time and just signing for Premier League side Manchester United that summer. Maybe part of the reason, in my opinion, he was neglected from the Ireland setup is due to the fact the long-standing tensions between players from Cork who play for the national team. Cork is located in the most southern part of Ireland and has produced players like Liam Miller, David Myler, John Egan, Stephen Ireland, Damien Delaney, Caoimhín Kelleher, Conor Horan, and of course Roy Keane and Denis Irwin. Most of these players were mistreated or overlooked by the Irish setup. Stephen Ireland stopped playing for Ireland in his early 20s despite being Ireland's most talented player. He lied about the death of his grandmother so he could withdraw from the international squad, therefore disowned by the public. Years later, Stephen Ireland said he was being bullied by the senior members of the Irish squad and dreaded playing for the national team. So he made up a lie, which cost him the respect of most of the fans in the country. Damien Delaney earned only 9 caps for Ireland, most of which were friendlies, despite playing for Crystal Palace in the Premier League for the best part of a decade. Players like Darren O'Day, who played for Toronto, and Paul McShane, who played in the lower half of the championship, were preferred to Damien Delaney during those years. John Egan, who has probably been Ireland's best player for the last 5 years, didn't get a look in till he was 27 years of age. This was because the Ireland centre-back at the time was Englishman Richard Keogh, who broke both of his legs in a drunk driving incident, which kind of forced the FAI's hand into giving the Cork man a chance in the first team. And the most famous Cork man to have a bust-up with the FAI was probably Roy Keane. His bust-up in Saipan is still discussed over dinner tables in Ireland over 2 decades on. Maybe being from Cork had nothing to do with Irwin's late rise into the Irish setup, but I feel if he was born in Dublin and was called Deso Irwin, he might have been capped sooner. Irwin went on to make 56 international appearances for the Republic of Ireland, scoring 4 goals, and would eventually play in his first and only World Cup in USA 94, aged 29. Ireland went on to reach the last 16 in that tournament. Irwin's club career began in 1983 with Leeds United in the old second division. He made 72 appearances before moving to Oldham on a free transfer in 1986. And in 1990, he signed for Manchester United for a whopping £625,000 sterling, an outrageous fee for a fullback in those years. In the 12 years at Manchester United, he made 296 appearances, won 7 leagues, 2 FA Cups, 1 League Cup, 1 Champions League and 1 European Cup Winners' Cup. And even in his mid-30s, he was still United's first choice left-back in front of an emerging Phil Neville. He scored 22 goals from defence, which were very rare numbers compared to any other fullback at that time. In the 2001-2002 season, aged 36, Irwin joined Wolverhampton Wanderers, and his experience helped the Midland side get promoted to the Premier League. In the following season, he scored 2 goals and captained an ageing Wolves side, but could not help them avoid relegation. Denis retired in 2004, aged 38, leaving a legacy and reputation that only the greats deserve. At a time where Brazil had Cafu, France had Eliza Wazoo, and the Dutch had Philip Cocu, all of which were attacking fullbacks in the 90s, I would strongly argue that the little man from Toker was much better. Not only was he comfortable in the both left and right back positions, he was also a free kick and penalty specialist. Had he been born in Paris or Rio de Janeiro, I'm pretty sure he would have had a few World Cup medals in his back pocket and would certainly be put in the bracket of the greatest fullbacks of all time. Alex Ferguson, who was probably the greatest manager of all time, said in 2021, "Out of all the players I coached, he would probably be the only one guaranteed a starting spot in my all-time XI." That is high praise from the best in the game. So next time you're in a pub chatting to your mates about who's the best fullback of all time, don't neglect Denis Irwin. He's just a shy boy from Cork who put every winger in his back pocket.